What's up, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode here on The Remedy. I'm your host, Pastor D, and today we have a brand new show for you dealing with gender roles. Now, you know this. Prior to the 1960s and the 1970s, right? It was the dominant belief that if you are born a woman, you're going to be a wife, you're going to be a mother, and if you are a man, then you need to secure a job because someday you're going to have to be married and have kids. It felt like everybody's destiny was secure from birth. But over time, things have changed. Today, more women graduate college than men. More women earn higher salaries and are increasingly the primary breadwinners in the family. This is a flip from where we were back in the 70s. So, is this trend creating a problem and describing gender roles or gender norms? What are gender norms anyway? Do you have a problem with gender roles in a relationship? Can a woman propose to a man or maybe pay half of the meal when they go out on a date? Who decides who should stay at home and care for the family? So at this time, I want to take a moment to welcome all of you to another episode here on The Remedy. Welcome, everybody.
Morning, morning.
Morning. I want to say I'm happy that we have a very well balanced panel, I would say, today. I want to take a moment to welcome our beloved Nadine, who's right here with us today. Say hello, Nadine.
Hi, everyone.
This
Good
is
to
the
be
very
here.
first time here on The Remedy, and we're going to make sure we treat her right, guys?
Something like
Yeah,
that.
she gonna get the ring.
Yeah.
The
So,
question should be going to Nadine.
Oh,
yeah.
Nadine, some type of sisterhood, right?
right.
Well, I want to say thank you and a special welcome to our Facebook friends and our YouTube viewers. By the way, those of you who are watching this program on YouTube, if you have not subscribed to our channels yet, please do so. We need you to subscribe so that you'll know when we have shows and you can always know what's coming up ahead of time. So, enough with that. So, now let's just dive into the conversation. Guys, are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, I don't feel like it. I don't hear it. I don't hear it. All right. So here's what I'm thinking. Okay. I want to ask this question as we begin. What are gender roles and the relationships? And before you answer this question, I want to read to you a recent study that was carried out by the Oxford Internet Institute and eHarmony. And they found out that men are 30% more likely than women to initiate a conversation. And the survey also mentioned that when a woman does send the first text message, the response rate drops by 15%. They found that men were more successful when they had more photos on their profiles, as well as if they were perceived as being athletic, agreeable. Similarly, they say that women who appear to be more athletic, more romantic, are more likely to be to get a message on their dating app. So, what are your thoughts on this? Are traditional gender roles in relations and relationships still prevalent today? What are your thoughts on this?
I
Who wants to
believe
jump in?
I go first.
All right, Markell.
I believe your job is to cook, clean, and provide meals.
What?
I couldn't even say that with a straight face. My bad. All right, let's go. When I think of gender roles, I think it just varies. I think it depends on the couple or it depends on the person. right? You can be the man or the woman and have strengths in other areas. So I think it just depends on what your strengths are, and hopefully you find a partner that counters those strengths with their weaknesses and you guys work together as a team. I do still believe that there are set things that should be done, I would say, by guys and should be done by women. But I say that to also say it doesn't mean that I can't tag you in when I need you to do something for me. Something small. Let's start small. Something like take out the trash. Or here's another one, fix a flat tire or something of that sort. If a guy and a girl are a couple and they're driving and they get into a situation, got a flat tire, if I see the girl fixing the flat tire and like the guy standing there on the phone or he's still in the car, like that's a whole red flag issue.
That's gonna mess you up, right?
Well, maybe she's teaching him.
But then even if he's teaching him, right? Even if we go with that one, he should be like bent down on the floor with her. Like he can't be up there like, oh, okay, I'll do that next like that. That's just gonna be all weird. So even though she should be able to change a tire, if he's there, I definitely think that's something he should do. So there's some things that I feel like are set for guys to do, and I think there's some things that are set for women to do.
All right, ladies. What do you guys think of what Markell is saying? First of all, based on what I said earlier with the survey, do you believe this is an accurate survey that was published? And what are your thoughts on this gender roles and relationship?
Hold on. About the text message part that you said, like first responding and stuff like that, I think that's accurate. And I think that goes to the mentality of men. Most men want to chase as far as go after the female. If
a woman is the one doing the chasing, what does that mean?
It just comes off as like the young people would say, like she thirsty or whatever the case may be. So we're kind of turned off on that as far as us young men. You know what I'm saying? We don't like that type of stuff.
Okay, ladies.
I agree with what he's saying when it comes to certain things that a man should do and certain things that a woman should do. Like with the situation with the car, if we're stuck somewhere, I expect him to get out the car and push. I don't expect him to look at me like, all right, babe, you push the car, I'll put it in neutral and I'll guide us there. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I agree on that in that sense. When it comes to the survey, I understand I get that some men aren't comfortable with women being the ones who initiate the conversation because, again, like he was saying, they think that female is thirsty or desperate, and they might not have as much respect for her because she initiated the conversation. But again, it depends on the man as well.
Interesting. And this is coming from a woman, right? So I find it kind of interesting. Nadine, how do you feel about what Mandee said and of course what Markell said earlier?
So I'm more of the question everything, like the patriarchy, everything that the society has said men and women are supposed to do. I'm more of the opposite of that. So like I'm more of along the lines of what Kels was saying, where it's just like, depending on the relationship and what you guys agree upon is what goes. Like, I lived alone before I got married for a very long time. So I know how to, do a lot of things. I can put up my own stuff. I can use a hammer. I know my way around a screwdriver. I can check my own oil. Like I get that from my mom, and my dad was pretty good about like, hey, let's go outside and take a look under the hood because I don't want you getting got type of thing. So I don't necessarily, what is a man supposed to do versus what is a woman supposed to do. Even in my own home, I, for a very long time, was the main breadwinner. And now I will say initially, before I got into this whole mindset of question everything, it was very weird for me because I was like, well, why do I make more? And like, why don't you make more? And like, it was weird for me. And it was also because people talking in my ear and how I grew up. And so it made me, question him and our relationship. And then afterwards, I was like, at the end of the day, whoever is bringing the money in, it's our money together. So it doesn't matter if he's bringing more or I'm bringing more. At the end of the day, it's one big pot. And as long as we're both working hard in our respective fields, we're both ambitious. We both have drive. Like, I don't think it matters who is taking out the trash versus who's cooking and who's, making more money versus who's staying at home with the kids. Like, I don't want to be the only one doing anything. Like, I'll take out the trash, but yo, jump in. I'll look under the hood, but yo, jump in. Like, let's do this together. That's the kind of mindset I'm in, not on some, you the dude, you supposed to do this, you the girl, you supposed to do this. Like, that's just not, I guess I'm a feminist. I don't know.
Yeah. And Nadine, to be honest, can I go in? Monday?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Nadine and Markell, you guys literally pretty much describe what I feel. I've been married 24 years, and as Nadine was saying, I have been the primary breadwinner, and my husband and I talked about it, and I think it was more of an issue for the outsiders than it ever was an issue for us.
Right.
I actually was the one that told my husband, listen, I make enough money for you to start your business and be at home with the kids. And it was the best thing ever because it wasn't about the money. My kids got to see a parent home. And that to me is priceless.
Yes.
So it wasn't about that and we talked about it. We said, okay, you know what? The likelihood of you making what I'm making as quick as I'm making is not impossible, but it's not something that we can see right now in the field. I'm in a very lucrative field. It's not like he wasn't in a good field. I'm in a very lucrative field. So we talked about it as a family, and I'm the one that said, would you mind doing your business at home and be able to be there for the kids? And I remember my kids, they're young adults now, and we were talking, we had this conversation about 3 weeks ago, and they said, well, Mom, we didn't grow up in the traditional family. Mm-hmm. You were the mom. I remember his mom called me on Father's Day and said, happy Father's Day, because I acted more like the mom. I was traveling a lot, and he was more like I acted more like the father. He acted more like the mom. But nonetheless, as a mother, I still knew exactly what was going on. I still knew what camps my kids were going to. Mm-hmm. I still knew till this day, even though my husband is no longer home, he's actually working, he's out of the house. And it's weird because now I'm in the house and he's out of the house. But till this day, my husband is still the chef of the house. He cooks much better than me. When this man folds some clothes that I've laundered, you will think that it came straight from the store. So we complement each other in that way. And never once did I feel like it was a problem. It was more of a problem for my family, I think, for society, because that's what she used to. But for us, we were comfortable. My kids never needed for anything. And my kids got to go to many different activities that if it was that I had to be home in order for these things to happen, it couldn't. So the two of us complemented each other and it worked. However, he did not let me take out the garbage. I can take out the garbage. I know how to take out the garbage. He has taught me some things that so-called man is supposed to be doing, but I don't think we've ever had that this is what you do. People come to my house and my husband is the one cooking. He hates cleaning. So, and when he cooks, it's like a volcano in the kitchen, but we'll complement each other because I love to clean. So he cooks, I clean, and it worked. Is it our reality? That's our reality, and it worked for us.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I'm glad you say this is your reality and it works for you. I'm listening to you and I have so many questions that are just jumping into my head. I want to hear from Jimmy and from Jeffrey a little bit, but as they contemplate on the questions at hand, I want to ask a similar question. Then maybe it's a little bit different. What I want to know, Pat, and I'm going to ask Jimmy and Jeffrey take a bite out of this first. What I want to know is, do the expectation change, or I remember what dating was like. When you are dating a woman, there were expectations. Um, the opening up the door, or you go and pick her up from her home, and you purchase flower for her, and the Mandee thing. You are the one doing the chasing and so forth. I'm listening to the lady describing what's happening and how it's evolving in their relationship, and it's working for them. But I'm trying to see if has the expectation changed from when you were dating to now that we are married. Things are different now. The roles, the gender roles are different now based on our circumstance. Do you see where I'm going with that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think I want to let Jeffrey go first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like so we've been dating for like a year now. So like when we first started dating, like I would obviously open the door for her. I would take her out to eat. I mean, I still do those things, but I think when you first start dating, you want to be that gender role where it's like you want to know, you want to show her that you can provide for her and take care of her and just be respectful of her and her family, this and that. But now, I mean, we're not married, obviously, but we've been dating for a little bit, and I think now it kind of evolved to like she can help around cleaning the house, or I mean, I know she can take out the trash, but I do it because I don't want her to go outside and at night and walk around to take out the trash. So I will do it because I feel more comfortable with that. And I agree with everybody else. Like there are some things like a man should do, but I know a woman can do it as well. Like say example for like if you're at a gas station and a woman is outside and her man's just sitting on her phone, I don't agree with that. I would say I'm gonna pump the gas and you can sit in the car and relax and do your thing. But I know she can do it, which I'm not saying that's like I'm not saying that she can't do it. So that's how I think.
Before you answer, Jim, I just want Jeffrey to feel comfortable enough to say exactly how he feels. Don't be scared because he's sitting next to you.
Markell, you an
Whatever's in your
instigator.
mind,
You
man,
are
just let
such
it
an
out, okay?
instigator.
And
I
we
just want
actually
you to
talked
feel
about this last
comfortable,
night.
Jeff, all right?
We're like, yeah, just say whatever you want. I was like, okay.
Jeffrey, listen, just blink 3 times if she's pinching you. Let us know, okay? So, Jimmy, your thoughts.
Yeah. My thoughts are it depends on who you talk to. Some people will have that idea of, this is what a man should do. But nowadays we're in this post Me Too, this new age feminism, and what I'm hearing in like forums and things like that is, you do that for me. What does that mean? I'm not. I can't do it. I'm a feminist. I'm strong. I'm a strong woman. I don't need you to do those things for me. Um, and now that you find in this modern dating scene, you do have the people that are more traditional. They want those things, but now the emerging crowd is, I don't need you to do those things for me. I don't. Those things, when you do those things for me, that means I'm lower than you. I'm weak. I'm this and that. So that makes a lot of men now put them in this limbo of, do I act the way they say gentlemen should act, or should I just let her do her own thing and say, let's go honk at the when I go pick her up for a date, or do I even go pick her up for a date? Do I honk, or do I go to the door and pick her up? Do I open the door for her, or just let her come in and sit down? Because there's all these new dynamics, all these new modern dynamics that are entering into the whole courtship thing, and our whole gender norms are being tossed and turned around. Everybody's confused. So if you find somebody that it has the same mindset as you, it makes things easier. But if you're dealing with people that are in this new modern radical way of thinking, then you've got a whole boatload of problems ahead of you.
And very interesting. What do you ladies have to say about the way Jimmy described it? This is very confusing for him as a man.
I have to say it definitely sounds cool. I mean, I've been married 24 years. I've been with Louis, I think, since 1992. So it's been 28 years for me since I've been in the dating game or whatever. So I don't know what goes on right now, but I do. I see my daughters. They're specifically the oldest one. She's such a feminist. It's you know, she's very much a feminist. But I have to think that as women, we are still women. And at least for me, even after 24 years of marriage, you still want the flowers. You still want to know, let the person know. You still want the person to let you know that they care. You still want them to rub your feet and, you know, open the door. But one thing I have realized is that my husband wants that as well. So, and
He
he
wants
even
you to open the door and
Rub his feet.
he wants the affection as well. He wants, you know, it can't be just about you. It can be where, I mean, like for instance, for our anniversary, of course I get the flowers and things like that, but I have to talk to him and find out what does he want and listen, not what you think he wants, but what he wants. I know sometimes specifically when you've been married for a while, you kind of forget what that person, or people have evolved. People no longer want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to listen. And it's not one gender thing is what I'm seeing. Because sometimes I would think, oh, you know what, this is Louis. He doesn't want that. And then I find out later, Louis wanted that. So you know what I stopped doing? I stopped thinking, oh, this is Louis. He doesn't want that. I ask him, what do you want? Or sometime before, I would, for his anniversary, for our anniversary or his birthday, I would give him what I think, or, you know, what I think he would want. I'll see your watch. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give him that. But I never took the time to ask him, well, what do you want? And it's that constant because we are evolving. For me, I'm a very sensitive person. So I want the flowers. I want you to tell me you care about me. I want you to tell me you love me. That's just who I am. Because also what people don't realize is, as Jeffrey mentioned, a year or so into the relationship, people start being comfortable. And when you're comfortable with each other, you forget sometimes that that person is a human being and they still want certain things. And I have to agree with Jimmy as well that the new generation is somewhat confusing because they want to show that we can do it all. But then if you're dating that person, does that mean then you don't open the door? Does that mean that you don't do some of the silly stuff that we like when we've been, you know, doing that courtship time? I think it's a little confusing for the new generation.
And I'm just listening to you guys, and perhaps the discussion we are having has a lot to do with those who are 30 years and younger. Because I'm listening to us, and I see there's different age group here on the panel, and the younger you are, the more as Jimmy will put it, the more confused um, I think either they will be, or the more dominant they are as far as what they want in a relationship. I heard Nadine and I heard Pat talk about what they do in their relationship, and it's working for them. But I wonder for the generation that are 30 and younger, do they feel um, do they feel the way that my parents used to feel, or the way that I feel today? When we look at, growing up in a relationship, the role of a man and the role of a woman is clearly defined. It's almost like now it has changed, and Jimmy mentioned that it has changed so much to the point young boys growing up and young girls growing up don't even either they don't know or they don't care. And if they don't know, is it because of something we're not doing to pass down that knowledge onto them? Is it because more teachers are now females? Is it because there's less men at home? When we're talking about a family with more women are raising their children than men are raising. I'm trying to figure out what happened. Where did we go wrong in relationship to this? I have a question. I want to ask you guys this, okay? What would you say to someone who thinks that gender roles promote unfairness? It puts people into unequal positions of power and promotes harmful inequality.
I agree. Yeah.
Talk
I
to me
mean,
about that.
it's obviously it depends from person to person. Like if you like having those clear gender roles and it works for you and your partner, then that's good for you. But like personally, um, I wouldn't want those specific gender roles because I have my own dreams. Like I don't being a mother isn't like my dream. Like it's not like taking care of the home isn't my dream. I want to have like my own career, my own like like my own career, my own passions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like gender roles, they can work, but I feel like it's whether you want it or not. Like you can't put everybody into these specific gender roles because not everybody wants to be a stay-at-home mom. Not everybody wants to go to work. So I feel like it still does vary just from relationship to relationship. It can work if, the woman wants to stay home. She likes, the domestic values that her family has or whatever. And the husband, maybe is the breadwinner. And if that relationship works, then nobody should tell them, no, she should be going to work as well, all that, and vice versa.
I'm gonna read to you two things that I just received. One is from Facebook and one is a text. This is from Sister Kate. She said, needing a man to do those things and wanting those things, it's two different things. She said, I'm all for independent women, but at the end of the day, I want my man to want those things as well. And a viewer from Facebook say, in response to what you were saying, Patty, Baby Tom said that what Patty is saying is communication is the most important thing in a relationship. And I think Nadine also mentioned that. So making the decision as a couple, what we're gonna do as we progress into the relationship, I think just based on what you guys were sharing so far, that's what I'm getting. It's like there's a decision that has to be made. Yes, at some point when we were dating, the roles were probably clearly defined, but as we evolve into a more serious relationship, you guys learn to adapt. If I'm saying this properly, yes.
Yeah, and I have to say, Monday, that Pastor D, also, like for instance, for us, I remember there were a lot of times that my husband, when he was taking care of the kids and doing his business, but just the fact that a lot of people didn't see him getting up every day to go to work, he was really disvalued.
Right.
Meanwhile, if I was the one doing that as a woman, it would have been accepted. But he was disvalued because as a man, he's not supposed to be the one taking the kids to games and stuff like that. And there were times, as you know, with 3 kids, and I remember he used to tell me specifically over the summer, I would put the kids' summer program together, and it's like, Patty, 2 activities for kids because I can't be going in 5 different places. Mm-hmm. People don't seem to realize what it takes, and our kids were 1 year apart each. And when they were in AAU, they were never in the same exact category. So it takes a lot to raise kids and have them in activities and things like that. And I think that when the woman is doing it, it's okay. But then when the man is doing it, it gets disvalued. And I think if it's okay with that couple, no one should disvalue whether it's the woman or the man. It should be what our choice is. And if it's our choice, then it's our choice and what works for our family. Right. And I think that the world needs to start thinking about it, not just on the woman's side as well, but on the man's side as well.
I mean, I do agree with you, Pat. I mean, this discussion to me, it's a mature discussion, because we're talking about gender roles. But I see again, as Jimmy clearly, I mean, very elaborately said earlier, that it is changing. Our world is changing. Gender roles are changing. Um, someone just wrote on Facebook that the term gender roles, let me just put it up here. She said that the term gender roles need to be redefined based on couple and the relationship. And I think that's what we are just saying right now. She said gender roles back in the days is referred to the woman being stayed at home, but in this modern day, gender roles can mean a lot of things. The woman can still be nurtured and have a career at the same time. So here it is again. Is that confusing enough, Jimmy? I see what she's saying, but at the same time, she's saying that the woman can still be nurtured and have a career at the same time.
Can I say something, Jimmy, before? But I have to agree with, I think it's Babina. I felt like I did both. I felt that, I was able to get the career, but my kids' teachers knew me. I made it a point that I couldn't attend every single parent meeting, but I was there because I didn't want my career to dictate my life with my kids. So I felt like I had both. And when I needed to step back, sometimes to scale back and do what I needed to do for my kids, I felt like I did do that. But because I was the one that was earning the most, we agreed as a family that it felt we didn't want the two of us going in the field and then the kids coming home to no one. And that meant the world to me because I hated when I was 13 years old and I was responsible for my two brothers, and I would literally be putting the key in the door and no one was home. And I vowed when I grew up, I didn't want the same thing for my kids. I wanted one of us to be home because I do think that it means a lot. If not everybody can do it, my parents could not do it. If one of the parents could be home specifically during the crucial time in your child's, specifically as Afro-Americans, Afro-Haitian, a time that's so important to our kids. So that was our personal thing, and we're trying to make it happen. Jimmy, I'm sorry. Go ahead and get with it.
I'm pretty much gonna say that we're all pretty much saying the same thing. That we have it varies from person to person what you like and what you don't like. The problem I have now, though, with these modern days, 2020, and these movements, is that if you don't fit the narrative, then you're the enemy. So modern day feminism, which I can say I don't support modern day feminism. I believe that women should have their own agency. They have equal rights. They should be able to do anything that they want to do in life. That's what I believe. But I don't believe that should be at the expense of other people of the other gender. I don't believe that should be at the expense of what I as a man want to do in my life, or what my wife and I want to do. So, because you have the loud voices of modern day feminism, if a woman says, "Well, I don't want a career, I want to stay home, I want to be barefoot and pregnant," and then they look at that person as an enemy, like you're an enemy. You're not. You're perpetuating the patriarchy. You're putting yourself under the thumb of the man. But that's their personal choice. That's what they want to do. So like I think a lot of it comes from the loud minority of the confusion comes from the loud minority and the media. To get all their ratings up, they're always going to put up the loud minority instead of the silent majority. So the people that are out there saying this is what it should be, this is what it should be, this is what I want, this is what I want, and even if it's sounds good or it doesn't sound good, as long as they're going to keep getting clicks and views, they're going to put that out. And our young people are being impressioned by these things, especially if they don't have a family that can afford to have a person home with them. We like my family. I stayed home for 4 years. I only just got back into the workforce last week. I stayed home for 4 years, taking care of my kids, and it wasn't because we could afford to. It was because that we couldn't afford for me to go to work, if that makes sense. So if I went to
Yeah,
work, we'd
yeah.
be more broke. because childcare was a whole is an expense for 3 kids that would have been crazy. So I stayed home while my wife, she was making more and she had more steady work, and so she stayed home. Um, and people from both extremes will look at the situation and say whatever they want to say about it, but that's a decision that we made to have, so that will make our family better.
So let me ask them.
Wait.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to say, well, obviously, like you're right when it's like the small minority is often the loudest, but I don't think it's like exactly fair to say that young people are being indoctrinated, because when I learned about feminism, I did my own research, and yeah, we had the small minority like speaking as well, but a large majority like of the things that I read or like things on social media um went against that, like I consider myself a feminist, but if a woman wants to live like, feminism is the ability of a woman to live her own life,
Yes.
and to make her own decisions. So if her decision is to stay at home and to be a mother, then good for her.
Right.
I feel like that still falls under feminism.
Right.
We should have the choice
It's the
whether
choice.
we want to, stay home, stay home with the kids, be a wife and a mother only, or, be a wife and a mother, but also go to work. I feel like, yes.
No, go ahead, finish.
Yeah, I just feel like, sure, there's quote unquote like radical feminists, so to say, but I feel like what you choose to expose yourself to, that's your own fault. If you don't look at it from both sides, then it's your own fault if you're only consuming the small percentage of people that are saying, if you choose to be a wife and a mom and stay home, then you're wrong. I feel like that shouldn't even be considered feminism, because you're still perpetuating that you don't have a choice, that you should do one thing when you should be able to do what you want.
So I hear a lot on both sides, right? Based off conversation we're having about gender roles. But let's not pretend that gender roles don't exist, right? Because it's still happening. I think that it may have evolved, it may have changed. If you go back in the day, men were hunters. They go out, they hunt. Women are in the house, they take care of the home or the children or whatever the case may be, mainly because women were the ones who bear the children, right? But now, as time has changed, women are wanting to do more, or let me say that, maybe there's not a male figure in the household or something like that, so women have to do more. They have to do both sides and things of that. You get women empowering other women, strong enough to bear the children and go back and getting it, right? Everyone knows that Beyonce quote. So it's like those things still exist. If you're a woman in the workplace and you get pregnant, you get 3 months maternity leave. If you're a man in the workplace and your wife gets pregnant and you're about to have a baby, you get 2 weeks. Then they're forcing you or assuming that you're going to come back to work. So there's still a line between what we're going to give to women and what we're going to have for men. And as women continue to fight for equality on certain things, I think I kind of guess what Jimmy's saying, they're fighting so much to the point where it's like we don't need men, in a sense, when there's roles that I feel like each gender has to play. And it's easy for you to say, yeah, but we can do it and you can do it and things of that sort. But truth of the matter is, those roles are going to be played by that sex. For example, if I tell you a nurse, your first thought process is going to be a female, because they'll hire a female because they're more caring, they're more nurturing, they're more this, that, and the third when it comes to being a patient. And that's just the bottom line of why there's more female nurses than more male nurses. If a female is sick or something of that sort, and you got a male that comes in, they're not so receptive to that guy being the one checking their vitals or checking them. They're more receptive to it being another female. So there's still gender roles as far as workplace. And I know we're talking about inside our own homes. It's easy to define that inside our own homes, but society and how the world is viewing it, it's still a thick line between what gender roles is.
And I have to agree with Markell
Yeah, I think
100%.
with our generation.
Go ahead.
I have to agree with Markell 100%. There's that perception that comes with the role, and the perception of certain things that we already have in our mind is always going to make it so. We are changing. Things are changing. But I remember an attorney telling me once, there's never a true 50-50. We say 50-50, but it's actually 49-51. There's usually someone that has more of like a percentage more than the other. With that said, as we're trying, because we are progressively trying to break those bonds, and we are getting there. We are definitely getting there. But I must agree with Markell. There are some things that just define or have the perception of define us that people, once you think about, if you're thinking about them, you automatically think of that gender doing that.
Again, I'm saying then if that's the case, and I think Jimmy mentioned that as well, then maybe we should change the narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, listen. How should I put this? Because I'm listening to you guys. And I can't help it but to think about it this way. We do need to change the narrative around men. I'm a man, and so I'm going to speak on that perspective. If a man chooses to stay home and raise his children, society wants to know, why is he staying home? It is not even about, oh, that's a good thing because he's going to be at home, he's going to be taking care of the kids, making sure that they do right. And so no, it's not even that. It's about, okay, if he's staying home, it's probably because she's making more money than him. So I imagine, you dress up very nicely, you go on a nice gala, and you have your wife next to you by your side, and she's looking beautiful. And then they ask the wife, what do you do for a living? And she say, well, I'm an executive, or I have my own business. And then you ask the man, so what do you do for a living? And then the man say, well, I stay home with my kids. The perception and the response, or the way people look at you when you answer that question, is never in a positive way. So we do have to change the narrative. Now, having said that, do we also have our own biases? I mean, in the show itself, is relationship really 50-50? I mean, Pat, you mentioned it's not, sometimes it's 45. It's I believe relationship is not 50-50. It's more 85-15, if I want to even quote that. The reason why I'm saying,
well, if it's 85-15, you need to go. Remember that 80-20 rule. If it's 85-15, then that person.
No. Let me tell you why I say it's 85-15, right? I mean, I'm a man, but I love my wife. I love the fact that as a woman, women tend to do more. Okay, but you mentioned how you go to work and you earn a living and all this. This is great. But when you come home, you still expect, but here I'm saying the word expectations. There's still expectation that is put on the woman when you come home. You still need to run your household. You need to do everything that needs to be done to take care of your family. You know what I mean? There's still that expectation outside of going to work. It doesn't matter if you are going to work and doing it full time. We still put that expectation on you to do the things that a woman, and again, I'm talking from growing up in that culture, we still have that expectation that you should be doing the things that a woman are usually really good at doing. And that's it. You can call it a bias, but it is true. It's how we were once. The rules are there, the rules are defined, but what we are saying today is that they are changing. Is it for the best?
Yeah, in some ways, yes, but I mean, obviously, culture is going to be more resistant to that change. Like when we were talking about the nursing situation, some of the worst people I know want to be nursing majors. Like, not all women are nurturing and caring. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the perception that as a woman you're supposed to be is.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of the issue that tend to come with gender roles. And it didn't even hit me until I was like talking to somebody. And then even just the idea of gender roles, it's kind of heteronormative. Like I was
Well,
like,
it is. It is. Yeah.
because I'm just like, you think of, oh, woman, guy, woman, man. Those are those relationships. But I'm just like, oh, the man usually the head of the household, the woman, whatever, what we were saying. But I'm like, what if it's a guy and a guy? Or a girl and a girl? Are there gender roles if they're the same gender? So I was just thinking about it, and I'm like,
But there is.
yeah,
But there
like
is,
those
though.
relationships.
Well, I mean, it depends. You can't really put an
That's
entire
why-
community in a
No,
box.
it
Yeah,
is.
that's why I feel like
Yes.
the point is like,
if it's two females, usually
There is.
there's one that's more of the masculine type that would do the
Yes,
male role
there
type of
is.
stuff. That's just the way. Even if it is and if it is two guys, there's one that's more of the feminine guy out of the two that would do the feminine role. They're not masculine or people just always going like that, because then there will be friction.
Exactly. And I have to agree with Kels. And I'm all for, moving forward, because to me, I love talking about things like that, because it's just like slavery. It just, we're opening our eyes and we are evolving as a population, and we need to evolve, because then if we continue to keep our mind with the extremity that we had, then we're not evolving. However, I have to go back to Kels in that even as we're trying to vaccinate or not vaccinate, removing titles, not removing titles, there's never gonna be 100% clear cut. The truth of the matter is, we will have gender roles, and there will be some perception to that gender roles. It is evolving, and hopefully one day we'll get to a better place than we are now. But it's kind of like regime and regiment to some extent. If you had a free fall of life, if you didn't have, let's even take taxes in the US, where April 15 is the so-called time for you to file your tax for the next year. Could you imagine?
You better do it.
Well, could you imagine if you didn't have that? Could you imagine if we didn't have January 1st as the new year? Because all that these things do is they put something in place so that we know if you didn't have January 1st, we would forever not even know how old you are. So there have to be certain things to put in place so that society as a whole can function. That whole of let's just be who we are and and move forward, it's not gonna work like that, because you need some kind of standardization to even move forward.
Whoa. Do you guys agree with that? Mandy, you wanted to say something for a minute.
So I saw that Sweet Nina Baby had posted a Bible verse, and it was Ephesians 5:22-23. Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its savior. So in a situation where a woman is the breadwinner of the household, and the man is at home taking care of the kids, who in that case would be the head of the household?
Can I answer that
Absolutely.
question? Head of the household doesn't really mean who makes the money. Head of the household means who are we deferring to lead, to make the decisions, or to guide the decisions, not necessarily make the decision, but guide the decisions. Like I said, for the last 4 years of our almost 9-year marriage, I haven't been working. My wife made all the money, most of the money, I should say, but I was still head of the household, meaning financial decisions. We made them together, but under my guidance, because I was the one keeping an eye on it. Disciplinary decisions, we made them together, but still under my guidance, because I spent more time with the kids. So I understood what their personalities were. And all the decisions that we made them together, but they defer. Most of the decisions lean towards where I guided them. And that's not to say that if my wife disagrees, that she can't shine my make me see another way. And that's what it means to be a leader. You have to be able to have a clear path to take. I'm gonna just say team. I'm gonna take your team to. But if there is a way for your if there's a teammate that says this is a better way, you have to be a good enough leader to know when to follow too. And the thing about the Bible, if I may take the pastor role real quick.
Amen. Please, sir. Please, sir.
We as a people abuse the Bible and to fit our agendas for many, many generations. The Bible has been used to keep us slave. The Bible is used to keep the women down. And if you read, and I had a bunch of verses pulled up, if you read, it says, wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. And husbands, you love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Amen.
And give his life.
Yes. So if you look at the dynamics of this relationship between the church and Christ, if you're submitting yourself to your husband as you submit to your Lord, to the Lord doesn't abuse his children. The Lord gives his children agency and choices. The Lord gives them pretty much free reign with parameters, And when you as if you're loving your wife as Christ loved the church, you're willing to give up everything for their well-being. It's not about putting your thumb down on somebody's neck and saying, I'm the man, I'm the leader of the household. This is how it's supposed to go. No, it's not the way it's supposed to go, because if God did that to us, none of us would be Christians.
I agree, and I wanna jump in a little bit, if I may, Jimmy. This is from Bebita on Facebook. She said that part of the problem with gender roles stem from the religious aspects and also from culture. She said that too many times many preach, she's talking about the preachers now, many preach that women needs to be submissive, but don't provide that. It don't mean that woman has to let the man take over, but it means that you will be able to communicate you will have to communicate to each other on how you're going to build together. Okay, so we are reading this. Thank you so much for participating in our show today. For those of you on Facebook and on YouTube, again, I'm just gonna be the bad guy for the sake of it, because I'm from the old school. You all know that. In my tradition and my days, men are traditionally, we were the providers. Okay, we were the breadwinners in the relationship, and we were comfortable doing it. Okay, we did mine. I'm an alpha man. I love the fact that I'm the one who goes out and chase a woman and want to take care of his woman and wants to provide for his woman and so forth. But I married a woman who is also an alpha male, if I want to say it this way. She believes that, you know what, as good as you want to take care of me, I want to take care of you. I want to take care of my family just as much. So when you have these two people and they come together as a couple, it goes back to what everybody's been saying so far. That communication is key, because if that communication is not there, there's going to be a problem when two people, when the gender roles are so close to each other. There's going to be problem in that relationship. And so, I'm going to ask Nadine, because you are in that situation as well. How do you deal with that situation?
You're talking about like being like, because I'm an alpha male and Eddie's also an alpha male.
Yeah.
So when alpha personalities.
Say it again.
Let's say alpha personalities.
Yeah, alpha personality.
Okay. If that makes you feel better, but I think in the beginning it was hard. Like I said, because I was alone, or I lived alone for a very long time, it was hard to now come into this relationship and you got somebody trying to tell you, you know what I mean, what to do. You know, it was a little tough in the beginning. But I think over time, we always go back to what's the goal. You get what I'm saying? Whether you come up with it or I come up with it, like I'm learning a lot to concede, and not because of, oh, the man is the head of the household and, oh, let me bow down and, oh, whatever you say, master, because that's not me. But it's definitely on the strength of, is this really worth it? You know what I mean? Whether you came up with it or I came up with it, is this argument really going to help us reach the end goal? So a lot of times I do concede. And there are times I found Eddy about to say some stuff and he's just like, okay, you know, it's not even that serious. Like he concedes. So there's a lot of like, you know what I mean? As long as we're reaching that goal together, I think that's all that matters. Like we should be able to, you know, it shouldn't have to say, oh, well, Eddy came up with this idea, so he, you know, like in our home, not only was I the primary breadwinner for a very long time, but I'm also better with money. And Eddy will tell you that, like, straight up, like I get money, I understand it. So like when it comes to like the numbers and balancing the books and all that and trying to make $1 out of 50 cents, I'm here, like that's my forte. So when I see that verse of like women submit to your household, I think some people are like, well, you need to give it to him because, you know, that's part of submission. But if that's not his strength, why would I give that to him and we mess around and be homeless or something? You get what I'm saying? Like, I think the submission has to also be dependent on what your strength is. And it's not, and I never am to feel like, well, I'm better with money, so you need to go sit in a little corner somewhere and do your own thing. We still, like Jimmy said, we still come to these decisions together, but he lets me operate in my strength. And when it comes to like right now, we're trying to think about like the home buying process and stuff. That's not my forte. So I've conceded that over to him and he's doing the research and all of that. While, you know, I'm over here on like the investments and like, you know, like it's a balancing.
A balance.
Yeah,
It's a balance.
I just really hate this whole like, let's define and let's make a line and you over here and you over here. Like like every single day it's a compromise. It's a balance. It's like, what are you good at today? You work in that. What are you good at today? You work in that. And there are times where I need a break from even that thing that I'm good at. I need a break from it.
Yes.
Like, yo, I got you. Like, you go ahead and don't worry about it. Give me all the account information and I'll make sure all the bills are paid. You know what I mean? Like, or, you know, I got him. I'll take care of it. Or, you know, one time or whatever, he may oversleep. I'm running downstairs to go put out the trash before the trash people come. It's not that deep. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, yo, babe, go get the trash. He sleep. Like, I can go get the trash. It's not. The goal is the trash needs to be put out. You get what I'm saying?
And it's amazing that you're saying that, Nadine, because I do program management as living, and you know the way you do program management, you start with the goal. Like if the company wants to do a product in 10 years, you go in your timeline 10 years and then you work backwards. So that's what we do. I think my husband had been on the show a couple of times, and we are so different in many factors, but we're so alike in many factors as well. And what has helped us is that those differences and the goal that we have, even with the kids. I think Jimmy mentioned that, and he said something that was point on that. Money does not equate to that's the leader in the home. And I totally agree. Just because somebody makes more money should not equate to, you know, he or she is the leader. In our household, the leader depended on the topic. Education, my husband is big on education as well as me, but I'm a stickler for education. The kids knew, and I would tell them, if your father said that, that's not going to be the last word. It's going to be me. Because my husband's a little bit more lenient when it comes to, and they knew exactly who to go to for which, because they know it wasn't 100%. We were 100% on everything. It depends on what the discussion is and who is. Of course, we're going to talk about it together, but there are some areas where Lewis is definitely the person to go. You want to talk about cooking and accounting and stuff like that, you're going to my husband. However, honestly, my husband is an accountant, and I'm the one that pays all the bills. I'm the one that knows all of the different vendors that we have. I literally had sent my husband, we have a Dropbox, and I put every single vendors that we have. I put all of our expenses. I'm the one that write everything. He is an accountant. But for the household, I'm the one that take care of it. If my husband needs to call the landscaper, I'm the one that give him the number. I'm the one that does all of that. But it's okay, because there are some other areas as well that he's the one that does 120%, 150%. And I call him. He's on the road. He's a truck driver. And I'm like, this and this happened. What do I do? And that's what it should be about. It's not who makes what and what's what. And the kids were our common goal. And you keep staying in that common goal. And then now that the kids are older, then we use other things to keep that common goal. I totally agree with Nadine. Choose that common goal and move forward.
Great point.
I
Wendy,
think,
Miller.
having Nadine say that was honestly really like good to hear, because my whole issue with the head of the household discussion is like some of like the roles that women are expected to perform don't play to my personal strengths. So I'm not going to choose to be in a relationship with someone who expects me to follow those roles if it's not something that I'm naturally going to be good at. You know what I mean? Like I like kids, but I'm not like I'm not I'm not the most patient person in the world. So when it comes to certain like things, I'm going to take a step back and let someone who is obviously better at it handle that. You know what I mean?
All
Like,
right.
That's why I feel like there can't really be a defined like head of household, because I feel like it still takes two for. I feel like the head of household, unless you're like a single parent, then there's might be a more clear, because that's the one person you have to go to. But I feel like if you have two parents, I feel like they're your heads of household,
because you're supposed to respect both your parents.
Yeah, it takes two of them that, for one, created this family. It takes two of them to make the whole family work.
I agree.
Can I
So
say something
here,
on that?
I wanna move us a little bit deeper.
What, before you hit that,
Sure.
man, let me say
Yeah.
something on the head of household thing. I like to when I like to explain the Trinity that way. When Jesus said, "I and my Father are one. If you see me, you see my Father." And when I try to get people to understand what it means to me, I should say, is that they're not like this one being, because clearly he's talking to somebody else, unless he was, Jesus was a paranoid schizophrenic with multiple personalities while he was on earth. But I like to say that my wife and I are one. If you see my wife do something, know that I'm doing it. If my wife says this is what's happening, know that if you come and talk to me, it's not going to be a surprise to me, because we have to be in sync. And I think that's the way that we have to look at head of household. Even though we defer to one person, but we're still in sync. We're still in sync. If my wife's if my just yesterday my wife was like, oh, I want these crackers. And I said, why do you want the crackers? I just want it. What did mommy say? No, then why are you asking me? So it's pretty much that way. It's like we gotta be in sync. We can't be against each other, and we have to move toward that common goal together.
Hey man, I agree with you. Miriam on Facebook said, remember a relationship takes two. Working with your personalities instead of against them will help to mitigate and navigate your relationship at home so that everything in the end is exactly the way both of you want. I think that's what Jimmy was saying, and that's what Pat and Nadine was saying as well. Now, again, I have some questions for you guys, okay? Because it seems to me that you, from what I'm hearing so far, that you guys are leaning toward being okay with switching up gender roles. If that's the case, are you okay with both? Are you okay with a woman who possesses both masculine and feminine traits. For example, the woman is loud, she's bossy, she likes boxing and sports and things like that, but she can't cook and don't know how to put on makeup, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm gonna flip it again. Will you, when I say okay with a woman like that, I'm talking about marrying someone like that. This question is for you, the guys. Now, are you? This is for the woman. Are you okay marrying someone who possess both masculine, or marrying a man who possess both masculine and
Yes.
feminine traits?
Yes.
Yes.
For example, a man
Yes.
who loves. Hold on. A man who loves watching Lifetime Movie Network with you,
Yes.
a
Yes.
man who loves to cook, and he's
Yes.
a fabulous hairdresser, and that's what he
Yes.
does as a profession. I
Yes.
That's what I'm
want to
looking
hear.
for.
See what I was saying earlier about those who are 30 and younger? I'm hearing yes, only from that stage. I want to
Yes.
hear from you guys. Let's start here. Jeffrey, you are that man. Will you be okay with a woman who is loud and bossy and like boxing, but when it comes to cooking or
She
put
doesn't
on makeup, she doesn't know anything about that?
I mean, I guess, like,
Remember the safety signal.
Go ahead.
no, I mean, I'd be okay with it as long as she helps me out, I guess. Like, maybe not that bossy, but
All right, same question for you, Mandee, but the opposite.
I am perfectly fine with men who likes to
We can
cook.
barely hear you.
I am perfectly fine with a man who likes to cook and clean and who can do my hair sometimes and who likes watching Lifetime movies with me. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that toxic masculinity is a problem, and I can appreciate someone who can open up about their feelings and who can tell me like about situations that they had and not feel like a man because they can show me the vulnerable sides of them or the softer sides of them. So I'm perfectly okay with it.
Okay. This is from Kate on Facebook. She said gender roles are usually centered on conceptions of masculinity and feminist, although there are exceptions and variations to the
Yeah.
rule. So we same question goes for you, Markell.
The hair turn. It's the middle part for me.
He said,
Hey, we gotta be real, man.
All right, so you married a woman who is loud, who is nosy, who likes boxing, but is not interested in anything that girls like to do.
Not.
All right,
Absolutely
speak
not.
your mind.
Absolutely not. Listen, it's cool, right? It comes down to you want to have fun in your marriage, in your relationship, and things of that sort. But I also got dudes for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to marry my dude friends in a female style hair. That's not what I want. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying she has to be submissive, super quiet, and no, still be yourself, still have a personality and all that extra type of stuff. But I'm not trying to marry my homie from down the block. I'm trying to marry this lovely lady who's going to add to me and I add to her, and we enrich each other's life and all this other type of stuff. And there's still going to be roles in our household. Like, imagine raising a child and the child don't know who is what, like that. Like, I'm about to get a spanking. Who's gonna give it to me? I don't know. I'm about to. I don't know exactly. Like, that's confusing the next generation coming up, in my opinion. Like, I understand, and this is where the women will be like, "Oh, we can do everything that y'all can do," and this and the third.
No, it's not even like that. I feel like the fact that we think that certain things are more feminine or masculine it's based on conception. I don't find boxing a masculine sport at all. Mandee used to kickbox. Same thing. I honestly feel like if you have a problem with masculine traits in a woman, then I don't know what you want. Also, there are people that are raised by 2 female parents, 2 male parents. They're both still guys if one may have more feminine traits, so to speak. What, maybe he likes to paint his nails, I don't know. But like, still the conception that we think certain things are feminine or masculine, sure, it's still based on perception, but I feel like if you put it into a box and you say you have to be like this, I feel like that comes with the problem. Not everybody can just I feel like that's part of toxic masculinity, when guys are just like, yeah, I don't want a female that is like loud and brash. She acts like a guy. And I'm just like, well, I mean, then don't date that type of person. That's on you, but don't bash anybody else that chooses to get into a relationship like that.
And just the question was, would I? And my answer is, I would not. It's not that I'm super masculine or anything of that sort. It's just my personal preference would not to have a partner that's like that. And you may have a different preference. It may be what you want, but I still think even if you have that preference, there's going to be certain roles that need to be played. Now it's going to come down to, well, who's going to play that role? Who's going to do it? Because both of us don't like getting our nails dirty. So I'm not going to touch the trash. So now you got trash piling up in the house. Or we make money now, right? We get money. I'm going to call this company now to come take the trash every single week, because neither one of us wants to touch the trash, because that's just the way we are. But now that's a whole nother bill and stuff like that you add into the house. Like that.
Well, wait. Yeah, go ahead, Nadine.
No. I'm just saying, like, if that's what they want to do, let them do that. Like, I think, I don't remember who said it, if it was my super smart and intelligent nieces, because y'all killing it today, or if it was Jimmy. But,
so I'm not super smart or intelligent.
You just took that away from you, sir.
Now I forgot my train of thought. I'm sorry.
I mean, the reason why I'm asking this question, guys, it's because I wanted to see, even between us, if we do have, although from listening to the conversation, it felt like you guys were okay with switching gender roles being switched. And I gave you scenarios where the gender roles are switched. I mean, I never say one person was gay or lesbian. I never say that. I only say that they have masculine traits and feminine traits. Okay. So where things are different, how do you feel about that? Because that's exactly what we are talking about today. Here's something that we do all the time. I mean, even I hear females do it. Okay. So you smack your kid on the butt and they start crying, right? If it's a boy, what do you say?
You
Suck it up.
Stop
being
and it's bad.
Stop being a girl. So you say that to your son. What are you trying to say? What are you insinuating?
That men should hold back feelings, but like when it happens to a girl, you usually let them cry it out because they're allowed to be more sensitive.
And that's bad.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of the problem. Like, men should be allowed to express, be able to cry, express how they're feeling, because that's how we get certain situations where, well, we've seen it, like men have a higher suicide rate than women. So I just feel like when our society, we perpetrate like these certain things, like to instill in men, you need to be strong, that type of thing. Of course, they're going to also take it into relationships where they're not going to be able to show their vulnerability and to be able to properly express how they're feeling to their partner. And it works for all types of relationships.
And
same with women.
It's hard because a lot of the time, like the only like negative emotion men are able to express is anger.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
But I have to say also, and I get the generation and I get the view and I totally understand. And I have to say, sometimes I flip-flop. I'm not going to lie. We've been together 28 years. I've seen my husband cry. He's seen me cry a whole lot of time. My thing is also, if you've been together with that person for a long time, the person's going to show you the vulnerability. because life is about up and down, and you will see that person cry. So it's not to say that men cannot cry at all. But I have to say, I am a very, very strong person. I've had some stuff happen in life, but there are times where things are happening, and I am a strong person. But when I call my husband on the phone or talk to my husband, I expect him to be strong. I don't want him to cuddle me and just cry with me. I'm calling you because I'm going through something, and
So
I want
that's what
you
I
as a
mean.
husband
I'm glad you say that. You see how
to
you
be
have
strong.
that gender role. It's there, right there.
And I have
Perfect
to, and
example.
that's the reason why I'm saying to you, I have to say that I flip flop. And one thing I'm okay with us not necessarily having the traditional household, but in another time, there are times when if I'm going through something and I call my husband, I expect him to be that strong shoulder. I don't want you to be another girlfriend that's gonna say, "Oh my God," No, I want you to be that strong shoulder.
And wouldn't he expect you to be the same way for him?
And I do. But the thing is, my thing is, when I think of if I'm going through something and I need a strong shoulder, my husband is who I think about. Is that person with the strong shoulder.
Speaking
And it's
about
probably
gender
the same
roles,
way for him for you.
speaking about gender roles, this is again from a viewer on Facebook. She say, parents. I mean, she say, "Look, can I read the note?" Yes, we can take our Haitian culture now. Most of us here are Haitian, and she say we can take our Haitian culture as the biggest example for gender roles. Parents expect their girls to be what?
Nurses. Oh,
Nurses, right? But
Oh,
their sons to be lawyers or doctors or engineer. They never push the girls to be in another field. Now this is
I have to
Haitian, right?
disagree.
But
I'm sure it's probably what it is for Haitian.
hold on. We have expectations. Even I'm talking about maybe this was the first generation who came here in the US, but the second generation, we have expectation. Men, for example, male leaders are supposed to be strong, powerful, decisive. But if a woman is in the exact position and does exactly the same thing, she is called the B word.
round of
Yes,
applause.
yes.
Is that double
Absolutely.
standard?
Oh,
Come on,
that's
work for
true.
family, work for.
That is
Yep.
true. Or sometimes she is called being too aggressive. That is true.
Yes.
I have to go back with the
He's difficult
comment
to
about
work with.
the comment about the Haitian part. I know my parents always wanted me to be a doctor or something. We never had there were never true differentiation between the girls and the boys. So I don't know for every single Haitian parent. So I can't say that for my parents. But I do know when women have the same feel as the man, they are called too aggressive when the man is just acceptable. That is true.
All right.
Like
Anyone else?
Back to the question about like whether or not like it's okay for your partner to be more sensitive and things like that. When I'm in a relationship or anything like that, like sometimes I don't want my problems to be fixed by someone right away. Like sometimes I just want to talk about it. So I like obviously like there needs to be a balance. Like obviously I'm gonna want like a strong shoulder sometimes, and sometimes I'm just gonna want someone to empathize with me, and, like to share the emotion with me.
Yeah.
And I would expect vice versa from my partner.
Yeah, and about gender roles, like growing up, especially like in a Haitian household, I didn't really experience this from my own parents,
But grandma and grandpa.
yeah, or other Haitians in the community. Whenever I tell them that I'm like, yeah, I don't really like kids like that, so I don't really want to be a mom. Or if I do, want to foster children, but instead I really want to focus on work because I love working. They're just like, what do you mean? A lawyer? You can be a lawyer. You're a girl. You're Black. I'm just like, but you told my cousin that he can do what he wants. He can pursue the same career. So it honestly is frustrating to see just like them trying to put still people in a box. Like a guy should be allowed to be a nurse. It shouldn't be just like perpetuated on him that, oh yeah, he should be an engineer
or a doctor.
But for a girl, she has to be a nurse or something. I feel like we have to really start showing them that choose a career path that you want.
That fits you.
Because at the end of the day, like these are not even easy fields, no matter the gender. So I feel like if we start trying to push our kids to expect more from them for themselves, it will, I don't know. I feel like people will be a lot better for it.
All right, Markell.
Well, I'm gonna let Jimmy go because my question might change the subject a little bit.
I
Go
was
ahead,
I was
Jimmy.
gonna address what they were saying and then go back into what the other question was. Um, I agree with you. People should be able to do whatever it is that they want to do in their career wise, career path. What we have though, unfortunately, in the society in general, let let's say I enjoy working with kids, which I do. But that's not the career path I would have taken for myself. But if let's say I did open a daycare, how many people would send their kids to Jimmy Charles's daycare?
Correct.
They're not going to. Why? Because why is this guy opening a daycare? He's a pedophile.
Correct. Yep.
And even though we want to be able to, in a perfect society, I would say go for it. But the society that we live in is so imperfect, and like you go into a field and you're ruined as a person, because especially men with children or men with that work with people that are vulnerable, you're stigmatized, and you might as well go back to school and learn something else.
So let me ask you a question. Jimmy, would you take your car to a mechanic who's a woman?
Yes, I would.
Why?
Because I go there for the skill and the work, not for the.
So based on your experience, based on what you just said, then can a man make a good daycare person, or I don't know what they call, but
Daycare teacher?
daycare teacher?
Yeah, I do believe that they can do it just as good as any woman, but society in general is going to look at him as a pedophile.
So
I think we have to change that perception.
Hold on, Markell.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. What Jimmy is saying is absolutely correct, right? And she just said "say" but very true. I think she meant "sad" but very true. It's much easier for women to say, "I can do any job that a man does," versus the other way around. Whereas, well, I'm a guy, I can do any job that a woman does. And it's because of what Jimmy was saying, how society's going to look. If I open up a daycare right now and have exactly the same thing that a woman has in her daycare down the block, she'll get students or children faster than a guy would get. And there's not anything you can do in society to change that. That's just what it is. No one's going to entrust a guy to watch another guy, not a family member or anything like that, to watch their children.
And so again,
I would take the shot at letting a woman watch my children because I'm under the impression that she may have been a mother, or she has motherly instincts, or she knows about such and such and such, versus it being a guy.
But why are we willing to settle for this?
It goes back to what I said earlier, and I think Pastor D, you said that as well. It goes back to, I think a lot of time, even by talking about the gender war, I think we're talking more on the woman's side, but also the man. When it's the other way around, I think sometimes they have it even worse. Like when I said, my husband, when he was watching my kids, he was extremely disvalued. Meanwhile, if I was the one when he was watching our kids, if I was the one that did that, it's unexpected stuff. So I really think if we are talking about gender war, and it is a big issue, but I also think that for the male, when you look at the example on the male side, it's even worse. I think they're more discriminated against than us women.
I got a perfect example. Real quick.
Hold on.
Real quick.
That's not true.
Wait. Go ahead, Mandee.
Women still get paid less than men for the same job. Why
I'm talking about if we are looking at the gender roles moving forward.
I can't get a job at a construction site because they're going to assume that I can't lift a concrete slab or operate heavy machinery.
I'm gonna. I have to say,
we're still in a disenfranchised state.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk from experience, right? Kate has her own business, and as a contractor, I've watched how many times when she picks up the phone for a particular job that a contractor should be doing, and when they hear that it's a woman and she's going to be the one
Exactly.
to do the job, you can hear the voice change. Or if you meet them in person, they look at her and they're always looking at, okay, are you going to be doing this, or you have other people to do it for you? It's almost like there's this perception that, because you're a woman,
Exactly.
we don't
You're
expect you
incapable.
to do this type of job or to be in this type of field. You understand what I'm saying?
And the
So
only way to sorry.
yeah. So this is from Naomi. She said a lot of this stems from past experience, and when you throw trauma in the mix, it added extra layers to a more complex
Agreed.
situation. I think she was talking more or less about the daycare question that we are trying to decipher. Jimmy.
Uh,
Yeah, we hit a lot of topics rapid fire. But I want to address one of the things that Mandy just said about the getting paid for
The same stuff.
The
getting
same
paid less
job.
for the same job. I'm not a statistician. Um, and but from the way I've understood it, the statistics and I read things about how people use statistics. The statistics out there um, have an agenda, the way they're used. So they say women make 70 cents on a dollar, depending on who you talk to, is 68 cents on a dollar compared to a man. But the whole thing is a women take jobs that are less
We take
money.
jobs that are available.
No, not exactly. Let's say, okay, I went to trade school, and I just finished trade school. There are a lot of women in the trade school, and but in my particular class there was only one, out of a class of 12, and each of the classes there were less women in the trades. It's increasing, but there were less. So, for instance, people don't look at trades as something that makes a lot of money, because a welder could make like $60 an hour, okay, on average. So when we look at the gender wage gap, there could be some there, but it's not as big as everybody makes it out to be. So you can't compare a welder that's making $60 an hour to a daycare worker that's making 20 and say there's a gender wage gap. And that's how the statistics are being used. You have to go into one industry and say male nurses and female nurses, this is how much they're making, and
Agreed.
this is the difference. And that's
But
when
they
you have
do, but
a truth.
Jimmy, they have done it where you can take male doctors and female doctors. They don't make exactly the same amount.
Thank you.
I didn't. Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but to the extent that the big gap that they said it exists, um, um, it's like 70 cents on the dollar type of thing, and there are also other factors which comes with the whole gender role thing too. Women are not encouraged to ask for more money. A man is more likely to ask for more money during the interview process. They're more inclined to ask for more money um, after they get hired for a raise, and a lot of times women don't. And then you have the women that get pregnant. They take maternity leave, so during that time because all those things go into those statistics too. And so when you take because it's never complete apples to apples, and men tend to make work more hours overall. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, and we never have a clear apples to apples comparison on that. And one more thing before I give over the mic. um, the when we were talking about women and when we call them the B word, first of all, I would never, I have done it once in my life, but that was inappropriate and out of anger. But that was,
We're gonna use aggressive.
yeah. My thing is, I consider myself somebody that looks at everybody equally. I give everybody respect. Even I give everybody respect until you prove that you don't deserve it. That's the way I operate. My thing with women that tend to be in positions of authority is not all of them, okay? but the ones that I perceive they seem like they're overcompensating. Okay, because they're a woman, they have to go over the top sometimes. And I consider myself to be, and that is my own bias. I consider myself to be a person that can judge somebody. You know, if a man did this to me versus a woman did this to me, I'm like, they both did the same thing to me. Okay, but sometimes I've experienced in my own experience that women, they tend to go a little bit over to prove that they're in charge, and instead of, okay, let's flex you this way, I'm going to break you this way so you can know that I'm in charge. And sometimes that's what happens. And I'm not saying all the time, but like, I know sometimes, a lot of times, when if I were to ever call a woman that, or consider them in that category because they're in charge, it's usually because of that. They just go over, they go super full throttle, turbo nos, and they say, I'm in charge.
Well,
Okay,
Jimmy,
can
I gotta tell
wait, I
you,
have an
hold on. So this is from a viewer on Facebook. Baby Ta says she disagree with you. She say a woman do not ask for pay raise, but at the same time, there are those that don't fear of being fired for being too assertive. You kind of contradict yourself because you say men will ask for a raise, that's assertiveness, but but woman does the same thing and they are disregard. So she's saying she disagree with you. Listen, we're getting close to finishing the show, but I have some questions that I wanted to ask. Maybe I'll save them for another show.
Yeah.
But in closing, what are we really saying? Are gender roles a bad thing?
When they're restricted.
Is it designed? Because someone will agree that gender roles in the past was strictly designed as a mean of oppression.
Right.
And systematically, if we take the time to analyze it, we can see it. We can see there are weaknesses. And when we look at gender roles, so what are we saying as we close today? Are we saying that gender roles is a bad thing, or are we saying that as we are different and we do have purpose, and what's best is that we find ways to figure out those differences and make it work? Jeffrey?
I think like I don't think they're bad all the time. I think like it depends on the situation. Like I know today, like women want to be more independent or whatever, and they want to do their own thing. But like I feel like back in the day, it was like more they need to pay for everything and they need to make sure like the bills are paid and all that. So I don't think it's not bad all the time. And like I like to cook, so she can clean, and I think it just has to work. You have to work with each other, and like everybody's saying, like communication is like one of like the main things that you need to have in a relationship. That way you guys can figure out what works for each other. I mean, I don't think everybody's the same. Like my relationship might be different from your relationship. So with that communication between like, just say me and Mandee could be different between Patty and her husband, Nadine and her husband. So, and Jimmy and his wife. So it's all different. But if you guys know how to communicate and work together, I think it could be great. And also Markell and his wife.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I don't think that gender roles is a bad thing. I think it's necessary to have. I think you can cross roles sometime. And I think that's the part that's missing. I feel like people see it as that's a man's role only all the time, 24/7. Vice versa. It's a female role only 24/7. And that's not the case. I think there has to be male role and female roles. And I say that because you are a male, you are a female. Even if you just break it down just that simple, there's things that women can do with their bodies that men can't do, and that will never change. I can't have a baby, period, point blank, period. I can't breastfeed, period, point blank, period. Like there's just things that she's going to be able to do that I can't, and that's a role in itself. So I think society and people need to stop fighting it so much as, oh, I could do that, I could do that, I could do it. Yeah, you can do that. We in these gender roles, I'm never saying that you can't do that. I think you can cross, but there is still a difference in male roles and female roles.
I think for me, it comes down to what do you want to do? Like I go back to what you were saying about the male daycare. If the man wants to open a daycare, let him open a daycare. And his work, his skill, his ability to be nurturing and to, make the business move forward will speak for itself. He might mess around and be more lucrative than the female daycare down the street. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, the girls just said it. Like, is it restricting? Are you being restricted from doing the thing that you feel that you were called to do? Like, we need to also break free from, well, society says and grandma and grandpa says, and who cares? Like, are you happy? Is this something? Do you want to be a welder? Do you want to, are you a man that wants to open a daycare? Like, do what it is that you want to do. We have to get to a point. I think that's how we break down, this like, well, society says. I think the more and more people like, I'm going to do what I want to do. If I'm single, I'm going to do what I want to do. Now, if I'm in a relationship, we're going to do what works for us at the end of the day. Like, I think that's what matters. Like, if I want to be the main breadwinner and he's okay with that, that's fine. If I'm single and I want to be a stay-at-home barefoot and pregnant, then I'm gonna figure it. Like, I need to do what works for me. Like, for people are gonna speak from their experience, how they grew up. Grandma and grandpa grew up in a very different era, so they're speaking from that. I don't agree with what grandma and grandpa says. And what I do when grandpa and grandpa says something that I don't agree with, I smile and I nod. If I'm with it today, like if I'm feeling a little froggy, I might go back and forth with you. But they have lived their lives and they've done what works for them. And now it's my time to do what works for me. I'm not saying that I'm like opposed to advice and, the olden times or whatever. I may glean a couple of pieces, but for the most part, a lot of the stuff that the older generation are saying doesn't work for me. And I don't remember who said it, but at the end of the day, it needs to be okay with you, and they need not restrict you from doing what works for you, and let them do whatever works for them at the end of the day. Like, I don't believe in anything restrictive. I don't believe in gender roles. I don't believe in roles, period. You know what I mean? Like, there's no such thing as, there are women who have the role of the quote unquote role of, only women can get pregnant. I don't want to be a mom. That doesn't mean that I have to be a mom because my body was created to bear children. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's what we need to break free from. Let people do what they want to do. Mind your business. I think the world would be a much better place if people just minded their business. Like, shut up. Like, it has nothing to do with you and your home. Shut up. I'm done.
Yeah. I feel like the main takeaway is just don't settle. Like, I feel like in the past, people have settled for less, because I know women, if they could do it over again, they probably wouldn't have kids. They probably wouldn't have married who they married. They probably wouldn't have stayed home. They would have achieved much different goals than what was put onto them. I feel like once we realize, mind your business, once we realize that you have to do what is best for you, and when you're in a relationship, you have to do what is best for each other, I feel like that's the only thing. You just need to be open, honest, and just communicate. Like, or your relationship isn't gonna fit. Gonna fail.
And culturally, the only way to change certain stereotypes is to normalize different pathways. Like, I'm going into STEM. Still, a large majority of the people I have classes with are men, but every class I go to, there's more and more women. So we're normalizing it, and we're gonna do what we need to do to be successful for ourselves. So, and it's the same way for men who want to go into female-dominated fields. You have to do your part to normalize a different way of life.
Amen.
What I was going to say is, go ahead. What I was going to say, what I take away, it's a revolution. The world was not like this 200 years ago. The fact that we're talking about this, it's a revolution. It is something that needs to be talked about, and we are making progress. That's what it's about. But at the end of the day, for myself, I love the fact that I'm a mother. I'm very good at it. I love the fact that I have a career, and I love the fact that I am where I am with my family and my career. I don't want to talk about anybody's issue or non-issue, whatever. It should be a personal thing, but we need to recognize it is a revolution and the world is evolving. I mean, these things, the way that our parents thought, they needed to think at that time because it was the time they were in. We need to move the generation forward, and every generation, I don't know if you guys realize, there's definitely a revolution in pretty much every topic. And it's because this is the time. We need to continuously to keep things moving. They need to evolve, and they evolve with people like us continuously so we can standardize. But I have to say that we cannot have a free for all. We cannot have a free for all.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Don't have it both ways.
So with this, I think I want to take a moment first of all to say thank you to all my guests. A special thank you to Jeffrey, who is here for the very first time, and my beloved sister Nadine, who's also here for the very first time. But in closing, guys, I want to say again, coming from a pastoral point of view, we didn't even get to talk about the role of women in the church today, because I feel like even in the church there are gender roles that we implement, and that's creating conflict even in the church. So we'll leave that for another day. But what I do want to say, however, is that in Galatians 3, verse 28, the Bible is clear that there is neither Jew or Gentiles, neither slave or free, neither male or female, for we are all one in Christ. So today's discussion had all of us analyzing our stance on various things, including who should be the breadwinner in the relationship, and whether or not it is okay for men to even propose to a male partner. Although these may all seem like simple questions to answer, but as we have seen throughout the discussion, that there are variables that go along with them, variables that can make people's answer different, that are based on who they are in the relationship and how long the relationship has been going, and whether or not they can see a long-term future with the person involved. Some will argue that the family unit is the basis of what they believe that gender roles are important. After all, men and women do have differences, even biologically. So the goal should not be to ignore these differences, but to accept them and live in harmony with each other. So neither gender is better than another, but they are not the same. And I think that's what we are trying to say. And as a society, we should always take that into the consideration. Be that as it may, as Nadine beautifully put it, I believe that people have the right and should live out their lives the way that they live out their lives is up to them. And quite frankly, it is none of our business. People should be free to carve out their lives the way that they want to, and not the way the others want them to live. People should be free to decide what's best for them, what's best for their family, what's best for their own lifestyle. It should not be pressure into some restricted lifestyle. When you are in a relationship, be sure to communicate with one another what your needs are, and then be flexible enough to deal with the new issues as they arrive in your relationship. With these words, I want to say thank you to all of you who took the time to watch the program today, either on Facebook or on YouTube. We encourage you to keep the conversation going with your family. Until next time, we ask that you will take care of yourself and take care of each other. Would you bow your heads with me as we pray? Father God, in Jesus' name, we just want to say thank you so much for teaching us today that when it comes to your kingdom, we are all the same. May we remember that as we deal with one another, as we maneuver through these gender rules, who get to do what, who get to decide what. Father God, help us to do it as you have done it. as Jimmy puts it earlier, if you have seen me, you have seen my Father. May we be as one as you are with your Father. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, we will see you again next week for another episode here on The Remedy. God bless you all.